Well, I don't have to introduce myself because that was already done. But my name is Asha Palmer, and I am Chief Ethics and Compliance Officer at OneTrust. Today we're going to talk about something that I feel like is looming in the air, right? Is how do you do more than just the minimum to become a trusted brand? How many times do we hear the word trust in conferences like this? What I was reflecting on before this talk was, you know what, it's actually better to be trusted than it is to be loved. Would you want someone to say, I love you, or I trust you? So today we're going to talk about how you become that trusted brand. Yeah, people love you, you build a great product, you have this big idea, you do good in the world, but do people trust you? Today we're going to talk about how you establish that trust, how you build that trust, and how you maintain that trust. Because trust is what is going to keep your company and bring people to you. It's going to keep your employees engaged. It's going to build your reputation and your brand, even in ways you never imagined. So we're going to talk about how you build that trusted organization. Let's start with the definition. What is trust? Well, there's two types of trust. There's inherent trust and there's earned trust. Let me give you some examples. Inherent trust usually comes from your reputation, right? You trust something because you know it will deliver. You've seen it deliver. You heard it delivers. Think of an iPhone. People buy an iPhone 13 because iPhone 1 worked. Kind of. But then iPhone 2 got better, and iPhone 3 got better, and I don't know what number we're on now, but you trust that it will deliver the things that you need it to deliver. So you have an inherent trust in an iPhone. Earned trust. Earned trust is where most of you guys are in your SaaS companies. People don't know who you are. They might not even know what you do. You're talking to a Chief Ethics and Compliance Officer, so nobody knows what I do. They might not know why you're doing it. They may not know your value proposition. So you need to not only tell people who you are, but you have to show them who you are. Because you want them to trust you and what you do and know that you are a partner with them to solve the problems that they need to solve in their daily work. So you have to earn that trust. How do you do that? Well, there's a lot of ways. You do it through your reputation, you do it through your reliability, you do it through your corporate citizenship, you do it with your partners. You are always earning trust, whether it's in the public sphere, whether it's on Glassdoor, whether it's with your customer reviews on G2, you are earning trust in all that you do. So the key to building trust is thinking about all these stakeholders, but also, it's doing what you say you're going to do, when you say you're going to do it, how you say you're going to do it, and doing that consistently. There is nothing that will erode trust more than inconsistencies. I'll give you an example. If you treat your customers well and don't treat your employees well, should people trust you? If you do one thing, if you make a public statement about what you care about, whether it's environmental, social, governance, or otherwise, and you don't actually fulfill those commitments, why would I trust that you're actually going to deliver the services that you promised? And so sometimes you can undermine your trust by simply being inconsistent. So when you think about the statements you make, are you consistent? The truth is, brands are built or broken by trust. We all know what's happened with Wells Fargo and the very public scandal that they were involved in. Wells Fargo right now is rebuilding trust. They need their consumers to trust that they have their best interests at mind because their actions either allowed or enabled the erosion of that trust. The thing about Wells Fargo, though, is that it was founded in 1852. Before the scandal, it had over 100 years to be able to establish that trust. Who in here has a company or works for a company that's been around over 100 years? Oh, right, because SaaS probably didn't even exist 100 years ago, right? Let alone computers. So we don't have that benefit as SaaS companies to have that inherent trust, that established trust, maybe that debit card that you got when you were 16 because your parents opened you an account and you don't really know how to change it. But Wells Fargo gets the benefit of reestablishing trust. What we are seeing is that trust is also driving the next decade of growth and differentiation. So before it was about, do you have a good product, does it deliver, and what am I paying for it? Right? We saw that in the 2000s. Then it was about, well, what is the employee experience? What is the customer experience? Who are you as a company? Now it's about trust and transparency. People want to know not just what you're making, they want to know how you're making it, who you're making it with, what are the drivers, and what is your responsibility to the community. So today, we're going to talk about how you really establish that trust and transparency within your organization. We are going to give you actionable takeaways that you can take back to your companies today. And there's one thing I just want that is consistent that I want to get across, is that you have to be authentic in your journey. What is trust for you and your organization is not going to be trust for me and my organization. And you have to lead your own path because that's the only way you will meet those commitments. Who's heard of stakeholder capitalism? I feel like it's the biggest buzzword of times. Stakeholder capitalism was a concept that emerged in 2019 from the Business Roundtable. If you haven't read it, look it up. Over 200 CEOs signed the Business Roundtable. And basically what it said was, you cannot just cater to shareholders, also known as investors for a lot of SaaS companies. You can't just cater to them. You have to cater to your footprint in the world and what you are doing to the other stakeholders. Just caring about the people who are giving you the money is not going to be enough to sustain business. 200 CEOs signed that. So what we've established from that Business Roundtable is that there are 3 areas you can focus on: your customers, your people, and your community. So let's talk about customers. Edelman releases every year the Trust Barometer. It's in its 20th year. It surveys over 33,000 individuals in 28 countries. And it measures their trust of companies, of brands, of NGOs, of governments, and how much they trust. And this is what the respondents said. 40% of individuals will not buy from a company they love because they don't trust them. 40%. It goes back to original what I said, right? It's better to be trusted than it is to be loved. Because there's a lack of trust of consumers that's making them not purchase items, SaaS, etc. Your people. What we see in the Trust Barometer as well is that individuals and employees have decided that they will go to companies that align with their values. So there are 59% of individuals who are leaving their companies to go to companies that are aligned with their values, which inherently says they're leaving companies that are misaligned with their values. Usually people leave, why? Because they're not getting paid enough, they got a better offer, they're doing that. That landscape is changing. They want to work for a company that they trust and that they know is aligned with their values. Now, your community. What we find is that defining your community is very, very difficult because it can consist of a lot of different things. Investors, I got to please them. social activists, I gotta please them. Rating agencies, I gotta please them. Who do I concentrate on first? We're not here to define your community, and you shouldn't let anyone do that. What you should do is define who are your stakeholders other than your customers, other than your employees, and what do you do for them, and what do you want to do for them? Because it's your community and how you engage with that community that's going to matter. Who are your regulators? Are they passing laws that you care about or you think are misaligned with the direction the industry goes? How do you engage with them? How do you advocate for better practices? How do you get a better loan, maybe? Who is your community, and what do they care about, and where do you want to meet them? So let's talk specifics about your customers. Peloton. Who has a Peloton in here? Okay, I do. I haven't been on it in a while, but I have a Peloton bike. Is anyone familiar with what happened with the treadmill at Peloton? Okay, so it was publicly announced that the treadmill, there were child deaths on the treadmill, 4 of them. Yet Peloton refused to recall the treadmill at first. And there was a bunch of activism, there was a bunch of people that said, hey, this is killing kids, is it safe? Peloton right now they eventually recalled it, it's back on the market, but do you trust it? So how do you rebuild that trust once you've lost it? You have to be transparent. You have to communicate about what are the safety measures we've added? What are the things we're doing differently? And what's important here that Peloton has done is incorporate that feedback, shown what they've done about it, and then communicated about it. And that's a big deal for us as SaaS companies, because we won't do everything right the first time, right? We have bugs, we have releases that mess things up. We make mistakes. We're building technology, right? Technology doesn't always work. And we can't just restart it and it work, right? So we will make mistakes. But the question is, how do we deal with those mistakes in a way that makes our customers understand we're incorporating their feedback, we're doing something about it, and we are changing the way we do things? Here's a few things you could do. What is your transparency plan? How do you communicate how you make your product? The supply chain, the ingredients, the feedback loop. How do you communicate that transparency to your stakeholders, to your customers? This is an easy example because it's food, right? But how do we make our product? How do we incorporate feedback? All of those things are things we can be very transparent about that builds trust in our brand. Here's 2 examples from a SaaS company. Buffer, on the left, tells it all. They tell salaries, they tell stock holding, they tell it all. On the right, we have Kickstarter, who tells what are the company's values? What do we care about? Where are we spending our time other than making software? These are 2 examples of SaaS companies who are telling the world who they are. They're being transparent about their process, about their equity, about their procedures. I'm not saying the Buffer or the Kickstarter model is right for you, but what are you transparent about, and how can that transparency build trust in your brand? Your people. The Trust Barometer has also told us that an employer is now the most trusted institution. People trust their employers more than other businesses, more than NGOs, more than government, definitely more than the media. Not hard to beat these days. But we are trusted institutions. So what do you do with that trust? I think what's always interesting to me as a SaaS company, and you guys may be in various rounds of funding, it's always about, we got funding, the market believes in us. But if you turn the mirror on yourself, if you have all this money, are you paying your employees equitably? Are they happy? Do you have flexible policies? How does that additional money not just translate into you building a better product, but translates into how you treat your people. Because here's the other side. Employees are our most critical stakeholder. They will go to Glassdoor in a minute, tell everyone what you're not doing, but also we need them, right? We need our employees. We want to keep them. We know how much it takes to ramp people. So how do we make sure we're listening to our employees and that we're incorporating what they say into what we do? Here's an example of Front. What Front does is they have a very open decision-making process. They actually even share with their employees their board deck. They share the decision-making process. They have like open inboxes, shareable inboxes, so that transparency with how they're making decisions, particularly as it relates to their employees, builds that trust that they have their best interests at mind. So here's what you can do. What is your culture? You have to define it. Do you want people to be open and honest? Do you want people to be able to speak up about important things? And once you define it, you have to measure it. There's an accountability there, right? So it's easy for us to say, people first. We want you to speak up. We care. And I deal with this particularly in my profession where we ask people to speak up. If I treat an executive different than a non-executive at the outcome of an investigation, do you think people trust my process? Do you think people will say, yeah, I'll speak up if I know that you're not going to do anything about it? So creating that culture and that accountability is important. You have to prioritize your people. What do they need? Do they need some flexible working? Do they need ClassPass? What do they need? And how do you show them that you not only want to attract good talent, but you're invested in retaining big talent, good talent. You want them to stay. And by making them a priority, you will show them that. And then enable agency. Are people enabled to contribute to the decision makings in your company, or are they just told what to do and expected to go do it? Agency and trust requires you allowing people to be able to speak up. And not just about illegal or unethical or any of that, but about important things. And one of the biggest things you can do for your people is notice who doesn't talk, who's not engaged, and to have a conversation as to why. Because there could be a very small tweak you could make in your leadership style, in your engagement style, in anything that can help engage more people in your brand and trust you more. Now, your community. As I said, there's a big community, and there's a fly. There's a huge community that you'll have to think about. Engaging with that community and the trust that you want to build has to be your own journey. It has to be. This was the slide I put up earlier. Which one of those is your community? What is your engagement with that community? What is your interaction with that community? How can you make an impact? The thing about community and all of building a trusted brand, risk management is the baseline, right? It's the baseline. When you think about flying on an airplane, you don't think about, okay, safety. You assume that everyone has safety. So when you're thinking about an airline, you make decisions on other factors. So risk management has to be a baseline. As a SaaS company, our baselines are security. You have to have a secure platform. Data privacy. Are you doing what you say you're going to do with either customer information or employee information? An ethics and compliance culture. Are people able to speak up? Those are baseline. But above that sits an engagement that you have the choice to seize the opportunity in. It's a choice to differentiate yourself beyond the minimum into showing where you can make impact that can also benefit you. I'll give you an example. There's someone who's on their ESG journey, one of our customers, and they said, you know, Asha, I believe in the altruistic nature that you say ESG makes the world a better place. But he said, we're not there yet. We took environmental measures because we wanted a better rate on a loan. And doing that, we got the better rate on the loan. We did something great for the environment. And guess what? We saw the return on investment and the opportunity we had against our peers. We won more customers. We publicized it. We saw great things come from it. But we started in a very selfish place, admittedly, that it was a benefit for us. That's okay. That's an okay way to start your contribution in whatever way it is. You will see that return on investment, and you will see the competitive advantage that engaging with your stakeholders and making an impact can do. Let me give you an example. And here's the thing. I know many people are looking for investors, and we've heard that ESG investment is at an all-time high. And it's true. 80% of investors right now look at ESG efforts within companies that they invest in. We've heard the leaders in those. You've got BlackRock, you've got State Street, you have Vanguard. But it's going to become the norm because we've got to change a lot of the trajectory and the contribution of business. Here's some SaaS companies that authentically have decided what their contribution to the community is, what their impact on the world is, what the stakeholders they want to engage are. Dropbox, human trafficking. CrowdStrike, election security. Canva, content diversity. And MailChimp, small business resources for COVID-19 support. So people have said, look, here's something we can make an impact in. It may not be in all of the areas that we're hearing about, that we're seeing some of these other larger, bigger companies do, but here's something we can do and make an impact. Your authentic journey to trust is the only thing that's going to sustain you. Because the worst thing that you can do is commit to doing something that you don't actually do. That is the way to not build trust. And we see a lot of companies who come out with these sustainability reports and pledges and DE&I statements, and then they don't do anything about it. They don't meet those or track those objectives. The problem with that is, again, if we go back to the definition of trust, you said you're going to do something you haven't done, and then you find not talking about it may make it go away. It doesn't. Because people distrust you, whether it's your customers, your employees, or your greater stakeholder community. So, few things you can do as a startup. Who is your community that you care about? Is it investors right now? It might be. But talk to those investors about what they care about. Talk to those investors about where is the impact beyond developing technology that they feel you could contribute to. Talk to your 20 employees. We were talking about this earlier. If you have 20 employees right now, get them all in a room and say, what should we be doing other than building technology? What is our impact? What is our competitive advantage? It's okay to have those conversations now. Because I'll tell you, as you scale and you grow, it becomes so much more difficult to define that culture and to really figure out where you can make a commitment and a community. Create your purpose. Literally, your purpose. Are you a healthcare company? Is there impact in healthcare? If you're a healthcare company and you're like, let me go, do something in, I don't know, the environment. If it's not authentic to who you are, you shouldn't do it. So what do you want to do, and how does that align with who you are as a company? And then deliver. Do what you say you're going to do, how you say you're going to do it, when you say you're going to do it, and be consistent in it. And I think importantly, to really get all of the stakeholders involved into the table to say, what can we deliver? How can we make an impact? What's an easy small thing? Is it recycling? Is it, community activism. Is it just engaging in the communities that we're in? What is it? And be authentic in it and deliver. So, what do I want you to take away from this? What is your transparent product packaging? Who are you? If you were to put a statement on your website right now, if you don't already have it, you should. What are your values? What do you care about? What are you working toward? How do you incorporate feedback? How do you treat your employees? What are your goals that you're striving for? And the important thing about transparency is that you might not be where you want to be, but it's very important to get people on the journey with you. Because that's how you earn that trust of, look, we're on this journey with you. We don't have everything we need to have yet, but we're trying to get there. And we're building in mechanisms to track and be accountable in doing that. You have to have trust and transparency in your culture. We are a very collaborative industry, right? We work together to create SaaS technology. We do that well. But do we talk about things other than the product we develop? Do we have, as we say at OneTrust, conversations, not confrontations? Because in trust and transparency, there will be very difficult conversations. You are going to hear a few things that you don't want to hear or you don't know how to deal with. But having that conversation that doesn't turn into a bar fight is very important, because that is going to build trust into who you are and that you're trying to get better as an organization, and that helps with trust. What is your place in the world? What is your place with investors? What is your place in the community? Where is your impact? Define it, stick to it, and then promote it. It's okay to say, here are the things that we're doing, and here's how we decided to do them. I guarantee you it will be a competitive advantage, because a lot of us are in the day-to-day. We're trying to build teams. We're trying to build products. We're trying to solve those, bugs and fixes. But when we step back from that and we're actually willing to think about something that's bigger and the impact and the why we actually founded or are working for the company that we do, we have such impact that we can make and such trust that we can build. So thank you very much for sticking with me and listening. And I hope you had something to take away from today.